Hello, hello, hello. Let's have a look at this thing. Welcome. Why is that on? That shouldn't be on. Dun, dun, dun. It's all crazy. I don't know about this new epoxy. I'm trying all these different epoxies. Some of them kind of suck.
Number one on the list is the DFM Small Square. This thing is very small, but it packs a ton of features into a tiny little package. And if you're not a fan of purple, like I am, you can check the
Alright,
square.
maybe they can have a mic. Who knows?
Another really cool feature of this little square is it comes with these little metal pins that drop in these holes. Got those pins in, then twist it, and then wherever it lands, right there's the center. A hole in the middle. It also works on the spot. That's going to be set every time. Of course, a square is a square for a reason. You can use it to check the square cuts. You can use it smaller pieces like this, or like this. You can also use it to check the face to the edge of the square of pin stock like this. And of course, you can use it on chisels to check the square. You can check the blade of your chisel to see if they're square. Fine or not. You'll find a ton of uses for this tiny little square in your shop. It's durable. It's made out of solid aluminum, so even if you chunk it like I just did, it's not gonna hurt. And you can stick it in your pocket, keep it with you at all times, just in case you're at Walmart and you can go in the shelf. Number two on the list, this is the full fit thin rib jig. You can use this on your table saw, your router table, or your bandsaw. If you've ever had to make several thin strips on your table saw, this thing is going to be your next best friend. If you see on the router table on the workbench where I put those half or 3/4 inch wide walnut strips, just cover the edge of that plywood to make it look a little better. For various other reasons, you need to rip thin strips. This thing will make everything much easier. So it runs in a miter slot, fits most table saw miter slots. Put it behind the blade, never put it at or on the other side of the blade because that can cause kickback. So the way this works is it has a knob on top. You loosen that off and you set the fence where you want it for the first cut. Move this over until it touches your work. Tighten the knob in. Well, the way that it moves. And there's a roller right here. Guys, move the side.
Fuck me. What the fuck?
Speaking of things under $30, go check out 731woodworks.com/store. We have a lot of build plans available for you under $30, and several bundle packages will save you even more money. Bundle them
Sides
together
and the
versus
bottom.
buying them individually.
Really fucking
Easy
good.
to follow, step-by-step build plans, help you make awesome projects. Check this out. Number 3 on the list, DFM setup block. Now, I bought all of these tools. DFM doesn't even know my name. I just saw these on Amazon and thought they were fantastic. So I picked both the square and this up. Check this out. So we got our blade square earlier, remember, with the little setup square. Now we can use the setup blocks to actually get the height set correctly. What I love about this little block is it's really simple to use. It stands on its own and has clearly marked measurements. This is 1/8, 3/8, 5/8. The other side's quarter, half, 3/4, all the way up to 2 inches. You can use this to set the height of the blade. The blade itself is precisely 1/4 inch thick, so you can also use it that way to set up 1/4 inch thick. Quarter.
Hey, Johnny here, and today I'm combining this ancient Japanese woodworking technique with some really rare wood that I had to source from over 2,000 miles away. I'm making a large dining table and laying hundreds of pieces of Nico, which are patterns created with individually shaped strips of wood pieced together to make decorative panels.
It's gonna make me want to fucking kill myself.
Before, but I've never seen it done exactly like this. And first up, I've got to flatten these foot match slabs over on the CNC. Now, you guys know that I live in the middle of the country in Oklahoma, and we're not really known for having the most unique variety of wood species.
Quick tested hole saws as well as drill bits, but what about annular cutters? They're supposed to be far better than both of those options, especially for larger holes. Let's get the testing underway and see which brand is the best. In the first test, we'll see which cutters make the quickest work of half-inch aluminum. Then we'll compare performance on mild and medium hardness metals. Finally, we'll see which cutters can handle some very hard AR500 and which ones go up in smoke. At a price of $29, the least expensive annular cutter we'll be testing is made by Steel Dragon. The size of the bits we'll be testing are 15/16 inch, and they all have a 3/4 inch welded shank. Machine finish hole with no greening needed when using lubricant. The Steel Dragon is made of high-speed steel. Cutting depth is 2 inches. The Steel Dragon does not come with a pilot pin. The pilot pin has several functions, including keeping the cutter centered, allowing coolant to flow to the cutter's tip during drilling, and to eject the slug after drilling. Made in China. And the Steel Dragon weighs right at 131 grams. If you need to drill a large hole, you can use twist drills. Unfortunately, this takes quite a while since you have to start off with a small drill and gradually use a larger twist drill, or you might use a hole saw. An annular cutter is a lot like a hole saw, but it's a lot more precise and looks a cleaner finish. For most of the testing, I'll be using a 1 horsepower 15-inch drill press since it offers a more controlled feed mechanism than a mag drill that I recently purchased. I've attached a wheel to the feed arch so that a constant downward force will be applied. Since we're using a large cutter size, I'll slow the RPM down as much as possible to 250 RPM. I'll use cutting oil during each of the tests. Annular cutters won't work in a regular chuck, but an annular cutter arbor is affordable. I went ahead and purchased 2 different types of arbors since I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use. One of them can be used with coolant, and the other one I'll just be using with cutting oil. Let's kick off.
I was focused on this, getting the sides and the bottom really well. I ruined more than one project that way.
If the cutter becomes stuck during the testing, I'll release the cutter and gradually reapply the weight. And with 80 pounds of downward force on the cutters, the Steel Dragon is ready to half-inch aluminum and doing a great job at chip removal. 50 seconds to make the cut. At a price of $30, is this Evolution Side Club. It includes both the cutter and
do it like 3 times.
It's made of premium high-speed
Bottom
steel.
really good.
Evolution claims that their cutters last longer, allowing for more holes per dollar. We're going to test that. The cutter has a 1-inch cutting depth. The Evolution is made in China. 97.96 grams for the Evolution. Middle temperature does impact cutting speed, so I'll cool the test pieces every time before moving on to the next brand. Just like the Steel Dragon, the Evolution is doing a great job at chip removal. And the Evolution is 2 seconds faster than the Steel Dragon, moving to the lead at 48 seconds. At a price of $33, is this Unite-Board brand. The Unite-Board comes with a pilot pin. Made of M2 high-speed steel. You make jobs in the faster the Dragon, moving to the lead at 48 seconds. At a price of $33, is this Unite-Board brand. The Unite-Board comes with a pilot pin.
Made of M2 high-speed steel, unique geometry provides faster feeds, less friction, and smooth hole finish. It's designed for mild steel, brass, and aluminum. The Uniboard is made in UK. 99.68 grams for the Uniboard. And the Uniboard seems to be making a lot faster progress than the Steel Dragon in the Evolution. And the more aggressive tube pattern on the Uniboard made the fastest cut yet at 35 seconds. At a price of $34 is this S&F, which includes the pilot pen. S&F claims that their cutter is made of a super tough high-speed steel. It claims to be designed for durability, wear resistance, high efficiency, and superior service life. It includes a 1-inch cutting depth. The S&F is made in China. 100.22 grams for the S&F. And the S&F is making about the same rate of progress as the Steel Dragon in the Evolution, only 9 seconds to make the cut. At a price of $42 is this Hermes brand, made of high-speed steel, 2-inch cutting depth. Hermes includes a pilot pen, designed to leave a smooth finish and excellent durability. There's no information on the packaging regarding where the Hermes brand is manufactured. 132.5 grams for the Hermes. And the Hermes is making very fast progress in shredding the aluminum. At 36 seconds, that's only 1 second slower than the Uniboard. At a price of $43 is this DeWalt brand. The DeWalt does not include a pilot pen. Can be used to drill holes up to 2 inches deep, made of high-speed steel. DeWalt claims that their angular cutter is fast, efficient, and smooth cutting. The DeWalt brand is made in China. 131.61 grams for the DeWalt. And the DeWalt is also making very fast progress, just like the Uniboard and the Hermes. 38 seconds is good enough to move into the third position behind the Uniboard. At a price of $44 is this Euroboard brand. Unlike the other brands, the Euroboard has carbide tips. Carbide tips offer longer life and the ability to drill through harder materials. It includes a pilot pen. The Euroboard is made in Holland. 107.3 grams for the Euroboard. And the Euroboard has carbide teeth. They may not cut the fastest, but they are designed to last a long time and cut through hard material. 50.5 seconds to make the cut. At a price of $183 for 3 bits or $61 each is this Champion brand. Includes sizes 13/16, 15/16, and 1/116. It also comes with a pilot pen. Champion claims that their carbide tip angular cutters last 2 times longer. They can cut through stainless steel and ultra hard exotic alloys. We're going to test that. The cutting depth is 1 inch. There's no information on the packaging regarding where the Champion cutters are made. 84.34 grams for the Champion. Just like the stainless. It claims to offer burr-free holes up to 2 inches in cutting depth. The Gestuous is made in China. 130. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty confident that the Union Copperheads are made in USA. 120.51 grams for the Copperhead. Just like the Euroboard and the Champion, the Copperhead has carbide teeth, and they need a little bit more time to make the cut at 64 seconds. And it connects securely, just like that. At a price of $9.
top 5 cutting computers.
Stupid cups are so expensive. I gotta try and use them like 2 or 3, 4, 10 times. Piece for the good ones. It's a whole bunch. Oh, what a mess. A lot of mistakes in this one. The air bubbles from my previous pours.
However, for medium or hard metals, the performance and durability is very expensive. For that reason, I would love to go with the Euro more and the price was right. If I just look at high-speed steel
Cascade Platinum Plus improves up to 100%.
also experienced some damage, and the pipe bridge is the first tool in the lineup. And the Durtech is able to loosen the undamaged bolt without a problem. However, the jaws on the Durtech do appear to be pretty soft and there's probably damage to the jaws. There's also some very minor damage to the bolt, and the Durtech yacht is with a partially grounded bolt at 33 foot-pounds at a price of $30. This is includes 6 different fastener types, including X, square, 12-point, each horse partially rounded and splined. Very close to 2 inches for the binding bridge. The binding bridge will definitely get the job done if you have a binding bridge. Unfortunately, the binding bridge did experience some minor damage. It's an multi-purpose silver just double-edged ratcheting all-in-one wrench. Bit size is 9 to 45 millimeters. Big link can remove completely stripped. The magic wrench is made in Korea. 2.31 inches for the magic wrench. And it wasn't able to work any magic on the undamaged bolt, and the magic wrench lost grip at 48 foot-pounds. However, the magic wrench did mangle the previously undamaged bolt head. At a price of $40 for 6 wrenches, or about $6.67 per wrench, is this grip tight brand. The open end of the wrench looks like a standard wrench. So the wrench will work with unfortunately, the grip tight lost grip on the partially grounded bolt at 55 foot-pounds, which is just a little less than average. However, the closed end of the grip tight experienced 2 broken teeth, and the wrench is now run. At a price of $64, is this also tools a bolt extractor offset wrench set. 6 wrenches fit 12 sizes from 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch. It's a regular set of closed-end wrenches, but it has an innovative design to help extract damaged nuts and bolts. The also tool is made in Taiwan. 0.94 inches is the most compact closed yet. And the also extractor wrench only removes the undamaged bolt. And the bolt looks almost as good as new with a small amount of damage to one of the corners. And the also tools have
Try killing bugs the worry-free way, not the other way. Zevo traps use light to attract and trap flying insects with no odor and no mess. They work continuously, so you don't have to. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
There's more than enough grip to remove the badly rounded fastener, and the wrench just couldn't gain a good grip on the completely rounded bolt. We previously tested the rocket socket brand, so let's test them again against these wrenches. Works with fasteners 1/4 to 3/4 inch or 6 to 19 millimeters. The rocket socket is made in USA, and the rocket socket is made at 0.89 inches. And the rocket socket is designed to as expected, the rocket socket is also vertical. After the rocket socket, you need to work with a partially rounded bolt. And the rocket socket needs to be on a fully rounded bolt. Finally, loosen it just north of the 6 foot. And about the $90 for $3 per wrench is the gear wrench brand. And after getting on the close end of the gear wrench is the 6.9 wrench. We'll see how gear wrench performs against some of the other solid wrenches. Just like the drop on the lower unit is faster rounded. Gear wrench wrenches are made by 0.95 inches. Inches for the open end is the most compact yet. And a 6-point gear wrench has more than enough grip to loosen the undamaged faster, and the bolt still looks new. And the gear wrench repositioned itself to take advantage of the flat areas on the partially rounded bolt. And the gear wrench and Agree tools maintain very good grip on the undamaged fastener. However, the wrench does apply a lot of pressure away from the corners, which causes damage to the bolt. A close look at the wrench, and it appears that the chrome plating on the wrench is crumbling. And Agree tools found plenty of grip on the partially rounded bolt, and the bolt loosened at 61 foot-pounds. Not enough surface area on the completely rounded bolt. At a price of $190 for 14 wrenches or $13.57 each is this Metrinch brand. It claims to be equivalent to a 41-piece conventional set. They claim these wrenches handle standard, metric, and even ones with rounded and worn edges. Sizes from 8 to 22 millimeters or 5/16 to 7/8 of an inch. The Metrinch is made in Taiwan. And the Metrinch is pretty bulky at 1.05 inches for the closed end and 1.41 for the open end. And the Metrinch performed just fine loosening the undamaged bolt. However, the wrench does have a lot of taper, and the spline applied pressure to only about 70% of the bolt head. And the partially rounded bolt began loosening at 67 foot-pounds. And there's just not enough surface area for the rounded bolt. And the most expensive brand we'll be testing at an eye-watering price of $469 for just 7 wrenches or $67 each is made by Snap-on. Snap-on claims that their Flame Drive Plus wrenching on open end provides up to 62% more in strength. Snap-on does not claim that these wrenches are specifically designed for rounded fasteners, but I've had a lot of people request that I test them. They claim that their box end provides up to 15 to 20% more turning power. The Snap-on wrenches are made in USA. 0.92 inches for the closed end and 1.28 for the open end is very well designed for tight spaces. And a Snap-on made very easy work with the undamaged bolt, and the bolt began loosening at 63 foot-pounds. The Snap-on wrench provides more than enough contact area to avoid causing any damage to the bolt. And the Snap-on just wasn't able to get a grip on the part wear and tear with the Snap-on. So all of the tools were able to loosen the undamaged bolt except for the magic wrench. Tool design can definitely have an impact on the durability of fasteners. While assessing damage is highly subjective, the gear wrench and the Snap-on cause the least amount of damage to the bolt with the best possible rating of 1. The number 78 on the chart indicates that the bolts were loosened. Only 7 of the 16 brands were able to loosen the partially rounded bolt. For the completely rounded bolts, only the pipe wrench and the rocket socket were able to loosen the bolt. Let's test the open end of the wrenches for maximum torque next using the same grade 8 bolts. With 3 points of contact, the vice grips performed very well at 100 foot-pounds. And the vice grips also performed very well on the partially rounded bolt at 49 foot-pounds. However, the vice grips did experience some damage. Adjustable wrenches have a well-deserved bad reputation for rounding nuts and bolts, but the locking design is really helping the scaling. And 83 foot-pounds is pretty respectable. And the adjustable wrench performed fairly well on the partially rounded bolt at 41 foot-pounds. However, the adjustable wrench did experience some damage during the test. Just like the vice
I've
grips
never
and the
seen one like
adjustable
that.
wrench,
Never
the
once in my
very
life
large
seen
and not well designed for
those.
tight spaces. However, 99 foot-pounds is almost as good as the vice grips. And the pipe grips performed just as well in the partially rounded bolt at 99 foot-pounds. And the teeth of the pipe grips did experience quite a bit of wear and tear. Having a moving part on the jaws of a wrench seems like a problem waiting for a place to happen. And the crescent made it to 93 foot-pounds when the wrench let go. And the moving part of the crescent wrench broke, and the open-end wrench is now run. And the grip tight performed well, making it to 75 foot-pounds on the undamaged bolt before losing grip. Unfortunately, the grip tight will never perform as well again since it experienced damage from the bolt. And the grip tight will not perform very well on the partially rounded bolt at only 50 foot-pounds. Making it 73 foot-pounds before rounding the bolt. However, there's no visible damage to the gear wrench, which should help it on the partially rounded bolt. And the gear wrench performed quite a bit better on the partially rounded bolt at 23 foot-pounds to move into the lead. And the green tools performed the same as the gear wrench at 73 foot-pounds on the undamaged bolt. However, the high torque load did come at a cost with some damage to the wrench. And the Gabri tools gave up early on the partially rounded bolt at only 9 foot-pounds. And the main wrench performed far better than anticipated, making it to 88 foot-pounds before giving up. However, the high torque load did come at a cost with some damage to the wrench. And the main wrench performed about average on the partially rounded bolt at 15 foot-pounds. And the Snap-on brand claims that the open-end design of their wrench gives it an advantage over the competition. Of all the combination-style wrenches, the Snap-on performed by far the best yet with a very impressive 97 foot-pounds before rounding the bolt. And the Snap-on held up very well with a small amount of wear and tear to the wrench. And the Snap-on made it to 16 foot-pounds before slipping on the partially rounded bolt. Looking at just the open-end wrench performance, the vice grip came in on top at 100 foot-pounds, but the pipe wrench finished in a close second at 99. And the Snap-on performed almost as well at 97 foot-pounds. With the partially rounded fastener and open face, and the pipe wrench came in on top at 99. The lucky one, 49, the adjustable wrench, 41 foot-pounds. Contact exclusive with the tools that make contact with both sides of the fastener. And the universal socket made it to 80 foot-pounds before slipping on 20 foot-pounds less than the vice grips. And the universal socket made it to 46 foot-pounds on the partially rounded bolt. However, some of the steel pins experienced some damage. And the Duratec makes contact with 4 sides of the bolt. And the Duratec performed well at 108 foot-pounds before losing grip. The Duratec previously lost grip on the partially rounded bolt at only 33 foot-pounds. Durability seems to be the Duratec, and it's also experienced quite a bit of damage. And the Crescent is the first wrench to outlast the bolt, making it to 151 foot-pounds. And the bolt is just stretching, so I'll go ahead and stop the test. And the Crescent just isn't able to gain grip on the partially rounded bolt. Once again, durability seems to be an issue with the Crescent, as it did experience quite a bit of wear and tear. Since I don't have bionic hands, I placed a hose clamp on the bionic wrench to maintain a firm grip. Unfortunately, the bionic wrench experienced a bionic blowout and lost 2 teeth. We'll go ahead and skip the grip tight since it's already experienced pretty bad damage. And the Ultra Tools has a 45-degree offset, which makes it challenging to keep the wrench fully seated on the bolt. The wrench has a tendency to want to roll to its side when applying a lot of torque. And the Ultra Tools made to 103 foot-pounds before the wrench rolled to the side and lost grip. And the Ultra Tools actually performed better on the partially rounded bolt and maintained a much better grip on the bolt head. And the wrench outlasted the bolt, but the Ultra Tools did experience some minor damage to the teeth. We'll skip the rocket socket since it's only designed to work in a counterclockwise direction. And the 6-point gear wrench has a lot of taper, which really hurts its potential. And the gear wrench came off the bolt at 111 foot-pounds. And the gear wrench made it to 49 foot-pounds on a partially rounded bolt. The gear wrench did experience a small amount of wear and tear. And the Capri uses a lot less offset than the Olsen tools, and that really helped its performance. And the Capri tools made it to 137 foot-pounds before the bolt began to stretch. And the Capri tools performed very well in the damage factor, and it outlasted the partially grounded bolt. The wrench did experience some minor damage. Just like the Olsen tools, the Micro Pro has a 45-degree offset, and the offset really hurt the performance of the wrench, and it rolled to the side after reaching 94 foot-pounds, just like the Olsen tools.
It's not
However,
powder.
just like the Olsen
It's
tools,
just
the
like
Micro
this
Pro also outlasted the partially grounded bolt.
sand
The wrench did experience some minor damage, and the vent wrench offers a very loose fit on the end damage fastener. And the loose fit really hurt the performance of the wrench, and it rounded the bolt at 89 foot-pounds. And the vent wrench performed about average on the partially grounded bolt at 52 foot-pounds. And the vent wrench held up very well with very little wear and tear. And the snap-on is designed specifically for undamaged bolts, and it outlasted the bolt at 122 foot-pounds. And the snap-on just isn't able to gain a grip on the partially grounded bolt. And the snap-on is still in really good condition. On an undamaged bolt, the Crescent, Capri tools, and snap-on are the only three wrenches that outlasted the bolt. However, the Olsen and the Micro Pro seem capable of performing better without the 45 degrees of offset. On the partially grounded bolt, the Olsen, Capri tools, and the Micro Pro are the only three wrenches to outlast the bolt. So the Capri tools is the only wrench in this category to outlast the undamaged and the partially damaged bolt. Assessing tool durability is highly subjective, but the rocket socket, gear wrench, and snap-on seem to experience the least amount of wear and tear. If you're working in a tight space, tool size is a factor to consider.
better
And the
grade
gear
of
wrench and snap-on have the smallest
plastic. These
footprint
are really
on the open
old.
side of the tool. For the close end of the tool, the rocket socket has the
20 years
smallest
old.
diameter. However, the snap-on, Micro Pro, Olsen, and gear wrench aren't too far behind. And I've always wanted to see what's inside of the universal socket, so let's go ahead and smash it and take a look inside. And it's a pretty simple setup with spring-loaded steel pins. But the wrench is designed specifically for damaged nuts and bolts. I really like the Capri tools the best. When you consider the price and performance, it seems like a great choice. All the videos on this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care, and I look forward to next time.
Old Spice Genuine Super Hydration Body Wash and LH 24/7 moisturization with vitamin B3.
Are you using all the Old Spice?
Several times a week, I did an extra set of hands, and I reached for some C-clamps. We have a bunch of different tests today, so let's see which brand is the best. In the first test, we'll compare the maximum clamping force for each of the C-clamps. Only one C-clamp survives the final test without damage. At a price of $25.50 for 6 C-clamps, or $4.25 each, is this ShopTech brand. The advertised capacity for each of the C-clamps is 6 inches. The ShopTech has a cast ductile iron frame. The actual capacity is only 5 and 5/8 inches. Room capacity makes a difference on being able to reach and then apply force on the right part of the workpiece. And the ShopTech just doesn't offer too much reach at only 2.25 inches. When trying to clamp two objects together, an adjusting screw with lots of slot can cause a workpiece to move out of position. And the ShopTech has 0.095 inches of movement. The ShopTech is made in China. The ShopTech weighs 1.89 pounds. The handle length, thread pitch, and build quality vary significantly. Some of the C-clamps are really light duty. To standardize the amount of handle force applied to each C-clamp, I put together this attachment which will allow torque to be applied to each vice handle equally. I've got a clip-style torque wrench that I've going to set to only 50 inch-pounds, and I'll then use it for testing each of the C-clamps. The ShopTech's adjustment screw is pretty gritty and not at all smooth. With 50 inch-pounds of torque on the handle, the ShopTech is finished at 396 pounds of clamping force. At a price of $6, the second least expensive brand we'll be testing is made by Pittsburgh and sold at Harbor Freight. The Pittsburgh claims to be an industrial C-clamp that is made of heavy-duty cast iron. The Pittsburgh is made in China. The jaw opening on the Pittsburgh is 6 and 7/16 inches. And the Pittsburgh has a half-inch more further than the ShopTech at 2.75 inches. And 0.12 inches of adjustment screw movement is a little worse than the ShopTech. 2.44 pounds for the Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, the Pittsburgh is a lot smoother than the ShopTech. 644 pounds of clamping force is very close to 250 pounds more than the ShopTech. At a price of $12 is this Win brand. Manufacturer of heavy-duty valuable cast iron. The Win is made in China. Just like the Pittsburgh, the Win has a 6 and 7/16 inch jaw opening. Just like the Pittsburgh, the Win also has 2.75 inches of throat, and 0.187 inches is the most slop yet. And the Win weighs 2.85 pounds. And the adjustment screw is a lot smoother than the Pittsburgh and the ShopTech, and it really makes
They're so old, I've never seen anything like it in there.
At a price of $14, is this Irwin brand. Larger swivel pad reduces barring on work surface. The Irwin is made in India. The Irwin's a heavy shed at 3.73 pounds. The jaw opening on the Irwin is 6 and 7/8 inches. And the Irwin offers the most throat yet at 3.5 inches. And the adjustment screw has the least amount of slot yet at only 0.06 inches. And the Irwin managed 1,005 pounds of clamping force to move in the second place behind the Win. Also the price of $14, the same price as the Irwin, is this Hardman brand. Sugar screw for more secure clamp and durability. The Hardman is made in China. 2.55 pounds for the Hardman. The jaw opening on the Hardman is very close to to 6 1/4 inches. At 2.75 inches, the hardness is the same as the Pittsburgh in the width. 0.14 inches, the slop is about the same as the Pittsburgh, and the hardness finished at 638 pounds, which is very close to the same as the Pittsburgh. At a price of $15, this is Pony brand. They claim to offer 1,000 pounds of clamping pressure. Ductile iron clamp casting. The jaw opening on the Pony is very close to 6 1/2 inches. The Pony is made in China, and the Pony stroke is the same as the Irwin at 3.5 inches. 0.118 inches is about the same as the Pittsburgh and the Hardin. The Pony is pretty light at 2.31 pounds, and the Pony's adjustment screw isn't nearly as smooth as the Win and the Irwin. And the Pony came to a stop at 651 pounds, which is a little bit better than the Pittsburgh. At a price of $17, is this Performance Tool brand. Unlike the previous brands, this one has a quick release feature. The Performance Tool is made in China. Valuable iron construction. The jaw opening on the Performance Tool is very close to 6 1/2 inches, and the Performance Tool is right at 2.5 inches. The Performance Tool weighs 2.63 pounds, and the Performance Tool clamp has a lot more slop at 0.332 inches, or about twice as much slop as any of the other brands. And the Performance Tool's adjustment screw is very gritty and only been in 382 pounds to take the live position for the shop tech. At a price of $22, is this Lincoln Electric brand. Includes a heavy-duty drop-forward steel frame. Lincoln Electric is made in China. The Lincoln Electric weighs 2.35 pounds. The jaw opening is very close to 6 inches, and the Lincoln Electric is at 2.75 inches of throat, and it has quite a bit of slop at 0.194 inches. And the Lincoln Electric was in the third place behind the Irwin at 770 pounds. At a price of $27, is this Yost brand. The Yost is a drop-forward steel C-frame. The load force rating on the Yost is 5,400 pounds. The jaw opening on the Yost is very close to 6 1/4 inches. The Yost C-clamp is made in China. And the Yost is the heaviest yet at just over 5 pounds. And 4.25 inches is the deepest throat yet. And 0.035 inches is the least amount of slop yet. And the Yost has a much longer handle than average, but it also has very coarse threads. And the coarse threads really held back the Yost, only making it to 616 pounds. At a price of $28, it's the Gross brand. The new information on the packaging regarding where the Gross brand is made. The frame is rated for 1,400 pounds. Made of 60,000 PSI ductile iron. And it grows weighs very close to 3 pounds. The jaw opening is just under 6 inches. And it grows is very close to 3 inches. 0.074 inches is better than most of the other brands. And it grows takes the lead from the Win at 1,070 pounds of force. At a price of $35, is this Bessie brand. The frame is made of ductile cast iron. It claims it can deliver 2,450 pounds of clamping force. The Bessie is made in China. The jaw opening is close to 6 1/4 inches. The Bessie has a throat of 2.75 inches. 0.24 inches is quite a bit of slop. The Bessie C-clamp weighs 2.79 pounds. And the Bessie ran out of steam at 856 pounds, or about 214 pounds less than the Gross. At a price of $36, is this Kanka brand. It's cast and heat treated for maximum strength. It has a clamping force rating of 3,300 pounds. 3.88 pounds for the Kanka. There's no information on the packaging regarding where the Kanka is manufactured. The jaw opening on the Kanka is right at 6 inches. 2.75 inches for the Kanka. 0.0215 inches of slop is the best yet. And the Kanka performed about the same as the Yost at 600 and...
Did you know some dish soaps don't remove all the grease, even the scrubbing?
I just cleaned them.
Try Dawn Platinum. It removes 99% of grease and residue. That's why Dawn is custom to save all that. Dawn Platinum.
My DIY cannon.
The maximum jaw opening is very close to 7 inches, and the Bessie has a deepest throat yet at 4.6 inches. It's also better than average at 0.055 inches, and the X-style clamp just fell short of 600 pounds. At a price of $55, is this Crescent brand. The Crescent is made of drop-forged steel. The swivel pack completely encircles the ball joint, providing a permanent attachment. Extra large handle provides a greater gripping area. The Crescent is made in the USA. The Crescent is 4.59 pounds. The jaw opening is very close to 6 1/2 inches, and the Crescent's throat is very close to 4.2 inches. 0.112 inches of slop, and the coarse threads really held back the Crescent. However, 831 pounds is about 200 pounds better than average. At a price of $60, is this Proto brand. Constructed of forged steel. The forces screw has heavily acme thread, allowing the screw to turn easily under pressure. The jaw opening is very close to 6 inches. Just like the Crescent, the Stanley Proto has a throat that's very close to 4.2 inches. And the Stanley Proto was in the second place at 0.024 inches. The Proto is made in USA, and the Proto weighs 5.14 pounds. And the Proto only made it to 673 pounds, or just a little bit better than average. The coarse threads really held back the Proto. At a price of $73, this right brand. The right C-clamp is rated for 6,900 pounds. The jaw opening on the right is just over 6 inches. The right clamp is made in USA, and the right weighs 4.97 pounds. And the right tool is very close to 4.2 inches. 0.073 inches of adjustment screw bottle is about the the same as the Grows. And the right tool looks a lot like the Stanley Proto, and it performed like it too at 667 pounds of force. We'll be testing two different C-clamps made by Wilton. Planet Force, constructed of dropboard steel. The Wilton is made in China. The Wilton weighs 5.59 pounds. The jaw opening on the Wilton is close to 6.25 inches. And the Wilton has the second deepest stroke yet at 4.25 inches. 0.067 inches of adjustment screw slot is quite a bit better than average. Even though the Wilton has much more coarse threads than most of the other brands, it still performed well at 747 pounds. At a price of $252, the most expensive C-clamp we'll be testing is made by Wilton. Constructed of dropboard steel, designed for heavy-duty construction, bridge building, heavy fabrication, and shipbuilding. Square head spindle has large diameter rolled thread and hardened point. The Wilton is made in Taiwan. The jaw opening on the Wilton is very close to 6.5 inches. And the heavy-duty Wilton has a throat of 3.5 inches. And there's very little slop at only 0.0385 inches. 18.77 pounds of the Wilton. While using ratchet design, the Wilton
Let's try one of these bastards. 3.5 inch.
on top at 1,070 pounds of landing force. The very affordable win finished in second at 1,058, Wilton 1,039, and Irwin 1,005 pounds. Tool weight might be an indicator of tool build quality and durability, and the heavy-duty Wilton weighs more than 3 times as much as the other brands at 18.77 pounds. The Wilton, Stanley Proto, Yost, and Wright tools all weigh very close to 5 pounds. Adjustment screw slop is an indicator of build quality, and the Kanka has the least amount of slop at only 0.0215 inches. Stanley Proto 0.024 inches, Yost 0.035, and the heavy-duty Wilton 0.0385 inches. A stuck or stub and swivel head causes a workpiece or clamp to move around quite a bit when trying to tighten the C-clamp. To test the build quality of the swivel heads, I'll place this ball transfer unit under the flat iron so it will rotate freely. I'll then apply 500 pounds of clamping force on the swivel head. And the shot tech swivel head is stuck, and the swivel head is slipping on the metal at 56 imp-pounds at 2.5 inches from the fulcrum. Unfortunately, the swivel head is just too flat and grip with blocking pliers. With a 500-pound load applied, the Pittsburgh swivel head takes quite a bit of force to rotate at 45 inch-pounds at 2.5 inches from the fulcrum. For a budget C-clamp, the windfall and socket actually performed fairly well with a 500-pound load. 23 inch-pounds at 2.5 inches from the fulcrum is about half the force of the Pittsburgh, and the Irwin performed even better than the Wind, moving very easily at only 11 inch-pounds. And the Harden looks a lot like the Pittsburgh, and it performed like it too at 48 inch-pounds or over 4 times more than the Irwin. Unfortunately, the swivel head of the Pony is pretty stiff at 36 inch-pounds or about 3 times more than the Irwin. And a performance tool performed better than the Pony at 25 inch-pounds, which is still more than twice as much as the Irwin. And the Lincoln Electric performed quite a bit better than the performance tool at 16 inch-pounds, moving to second place. And the Yost has a pretty large adjustment screw as well. And the Yost moves just as easily as the Lincoln Electric at 16 inch-pounds. And the Groves performed even better than the Lincoln Electric and Yost at 14 inch-pounds. And the Betsy C-clamp performed almost as well as the Lincoln Electric and Yost at 18 inch-pounds. And the Kanka performed almost the same as the Betsy at 17 inch-pounds. And the Betsy F-style swivel head moves very freely at 15 inch-pounds. And the Crescent moves very easily with 500 pounds of load on the swivel head at only 12 inch-pounds. And the Stanley Proto performs the same as the Crescent at 12 inch-pounds. And the Wright tool takes the lead from the Irwin at only 8 inch-pounds. Very impressive. And the Wilton performed the same.
That other one had fucking 18.7.
We'll skip the heavy-duty Wilton since it doesn't have a swivel head. So the Wright tool has the most efficient swivel head at only 8 inch-pounds. Irwin performed well at 11 inch-pounds, and the Crescent and Stanley Proto 12 inch-pounds. When I can't get enough clamping force with just using hand force on the handle, a cheetah bar really helps. So let's see how much force we can achieve before bending the handles. And the Shot Tech made it to 812 pounds before the handle became bent. And the Pittsburgh claims to be an industrial-grade clamp. And the Pittsburgh briefly made it to 2,163 pounds before losing ground. The frame of the Pittsburgh now has a small bend. And the Wind has outperformed the Pittsburgh throughout the showdown, and it outperformed the Pittsburgh on this test too, making it to 2,568 pounds. The Wind's frame did experience a small bend. At $14, the Irwin is priced for value, and the Irwin outperformed the Wind by almost 750 pounds, finally reaching a peak force of 3,321 pounds with a handle bend. The Irwin's free minute to 1,537 pounds. The handle is badly bent. Just like the Harden, the Pony struggled in this test with the frame beginning to bend at 1,562 pounds. And the performance tool ran out of performance at 1,460 pounds. The handle is down. And the electric performed about the same with Pony at 1,681 pounds when the frame began.
Oh, there it is. Oh, good job. The Betsy is also pretty lightweight, 2.79 pounds, and it also
3,625 pounds. Stronger at 4,354 pounds, which is good. But the weight advantage isn't enough. Almost 6,400 pounds is about 3,600 pounds less than the right tool. And the Wilton's adjusting screw is now bent. And the heavy-duty Wilton is designed for bridge and shipbuilding, and it delivered more than 3 times as much force as the second-place finisher at almost 34,000 pounds. Very impressive. No damage to the Wilton. So the heavy-duty Wilton came out on top at 33,880 pounds. Right tool finished in second at 9,060, and Stanley Pro 8,980 pounds. And the clamp is already under load. Let's see how much holding force each brand can offer before experiencing damage. And the Shop Tech went in 2 different directions at 980 pounds. And Pittsburgh performed better than the Shop Tech, making it to 2,581 pounds when the frame broke. And the cast metal is pretty fertile. And the Win outperformed the Pittsburgh on previous tests, and the Win outperformed the Pittsburgh on this test too, finally breaking at almost 4,000 pounds. At 3,500 pounds, the frame began to bend and twist. And the Irwin is finished at just under 3,900 pounds. The adjusting screw just isn't very refined in the heart, but the frame offers pretty good strength at over 5,200 pounds. The frame is badly bent, but it didn't crack. And the pony weighs a little bit less than the heart, and it also gave up a little sooner when the frame snapped at 2,765 pounds. The Performance Tools adjustment screw doesn't offer too much lead, but the frame does have pretty good strength at almost 4,200 pounds. The frame and the adjustment screw are badly bent, and the Lincoln Electric's frame managed almost 3,200 pounds when things were happy 70. And the Lincoln Electric is finished, and the Yoast refused to break, making it almost 10,000 pounds. Instead of bending and holding the bend, the frame returned to the original position once the tension was removed, and it grows as 2 pounds lighter than the Yoast, and it grows ready to just over 4,000 pounds when it suddenly snapped. I made a couple attempts to reach failure point with the Bessie, and it made it almost 5,000 pounds when the frame experienced a really bad bend. I also made a couple attempts to reach failure point with the Bessie, and it made it almost 6,000 pounds. The frame is now twisted and bent, and the Bessie style lead clamp is very light and quick to use. It made it to just over 2,000 pounds when the frame began to twist and bend, and the Crescent is made of drop forward steel, and it's extremely durable, finally giving up at just over 10,000 pounds. The frame did experience a bend. The drop forward steel frame on the Stanley Cone was even stronger than the Crescent, finally giving up over 11,000 pounds. The frame did experience a pretty bad bend. The right tool was out on the previous brand throughout the showdown and is back in the lead again at just over 11,300 pounds. The frame did experience a small bend, and the Wilton made it to just over 9,200 pounds, and that's all the frame can handle. After a couple of attempts, the frame and adjusting screw are now bent, and the Wilton C-clamp is rated for 27,500 pounds. And the hydraulic frame is rated, and the Wilton is stretched and not bending or breaking, and 50,327 pounds. Very impressive. No damage to the Wilton. So the heavy-duty Wilton came in on top with over 50,000 pounds. Right tools and Stanley Proto both finished at over 11,000 pounds, and Crescent at just over 10,000. In my opinion, it's way too large, heavy, and expensive for most applications. The Stanley Proto and right tools perform extremely well, but most of them fall within the 5-1 and tri-woods category when it comes to price. And it's all about affordability. I really like the Irwin at only $14. It performs extremely well. I definitely don't say it enough. I just want to thank everyone that supports the channel through YouTube memberships as well as Patreon for helping me fund the destruction. I have a lot of fun testing products, and it really helps to know the failure point of each tool. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have any look forward to next time.
The chainsaw chain sharpening jig will make your chainsaw as sharp as ever, saving you time and effort. It is as easy as a pencil sharpener. Simply attach the jig to the bar. Position the pawl on the tooth.
A poor quality hose clamp can leave you stranded. So the question is that 20-cent hose clamp just as good as almost $9? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which hose clamp offers the best sealing pressure. Then we'll see which hose clamp has the best tension strength. We'll test the hose clamps for that exposure level. Let's see which hose clamp offers the best resistance to corrosion. At a price of $15 for 80 pieces or 19 cents each is this Maxima brand, made of high-quality stainless steel, effectively prevents rust and corrosion. The Maxima brand is made in China. The Maxima weighs 13.84 grams. Let's see how the clamps perform sealing a pipe with 5 holes. I'll place the hose directly over the holes and I'll tighten the hose clamp to 30 inch-pounds. And the Maxima worm gear is just not very smooth. It doesn't seem to be staying aligned with the slots. And the Maxima is at 475 psi before the hose began leaking and losing pressure. Even at only 30 inch-pounds of torque, the Maxima slots are better than the Maxima. So there's quite a bit of mechanical resistance while trying to tighten the hose clamp to 30 inch-pounds. At a price of $22 for 112 pieces or 40 cents each is this Japanese brand, made of reinforced stainless steel. The slot seemed very well aligned on the Mishimoto, 710 psi within a second price behind the cone. And the Mishimoto held up very well. Also, the price of $12 for 10 clamps, the same price as the Mishimoto, is just 3 grand. Let's do a host plate, plate and screw, and half inch game. Heavy duty construction, that's a very corrosion resistant. Industrial ring out of both agricultural. That's not made in the USA. Those times 25 grams. The band's engines are rounded out. These constructions well free help. Precision does seem to have more wear than 33s. At a price of $22 for 10 hose clamps or $2.20 each is this ideal Trident brand. Made of 300 series stainless steel. Size 11/16 to an inch and a half. Proven designs, good use of values. The ideal Trident brand. And like the other hose clamps we'll be testing, these are constant tension band hose clamps. The hose clamp works with sizes 1 and 15/32 to 1 3/4 of an inch. The Clips and Fasteners brand is made in USA. The Clips and Fasteners weigh 25 grams. And the hose is about 1 millimeter too small for the hose clamp, but let's try it anyway. And the needle stayed on 0 with that hose locked and sealed. I'll add some vinyl tapes to the clamp and apply a lot more tension. 2 millimeters and a constant tension clamp. At a price of $31 for 10 hose clamps or $3.10 each is this Norma brand. Ideally suited for applications with high mechanical loads. Base symmetrical construction, which provides high clamping force and superior torque strength, provides even distribution and clamping pressure. Clamps line perfectly on the hose to ensure optimal sealing of the connection. The Norma hose clamps are made in Germany. And the Norma moves into the lead at 1,200 PSI. Very impressive. And the Norma hose clamp still looks as good as new. At a price of $40 for 10 hose clamps or $4 is a scamping crate. Roll advantage to prevent cutting its hose. 60-degree thread pits angle brings a vibration. All press work pure housing increases strength of the clamp by 30%. 316 stainless steel hose clamps offer premium corrosion resistance. There's no information on an action when these clamps are made. The Scandic was 24.2 grams. The Scandic clamp had a all those clamps and it is 1,010 PSI. Only a small amount of wear and tear with the Scandic. Price is $60 for $4 each is the Keisha. The size range from 36 to 39 millimeters. 304 stainless steel adjustable heavy-duty pipe strap clamps. Rounded edge to keep from getting into hoses. Designed for providing protection. High-pressure hose clamp can be used in a variety of applications from automotive to special equipment. Those clamp and spot welded locations. The Keisha brand is made in China, and they keep it like more than heavy shipping. Not brands. The hose clamp is designed for 36 to 39 millimeters, and the hose is just over 36 millimeters. And the adhesive just wasn't able to apply enough clamp load, 50 PSI. I added some vinyl tape to allow the adhesive to apply more clamping force. And the adhesive moved to 410 PSI before it began leaking. And the most attractive hose clamp will be testing at $8.75 each is made by Mishimoto. There's no information on the packaging regarding where the hose clamp is made. Larger and the hose is 36 millimeters. And the hose for the lift just enough to run your house, so it doesn't seem to be spreading the pressure as evenly as some of the other brands. 460 PSI, and the one is making quite a bit of contact with the outer surface of the band. Let's see if that's how well the hose fits into this testing.
Oh, you can't fucking hear it.
As well as how much the hose represents the look. And a warning event on top at 1,200 PSI, reason scanning time per second at 1,010 PSI, over precision 750 PSI. The clamp with the most weight is 19.8 millimeters. The Mishimoto Gold is 15.7 and precision 12.7 millimeters. Clamp width and thickness could be a big factor in clamp strength. The worm gear style bench grinder is a must-have tool. So the question is that $90 bench grinder just as good as the one that cost over $500? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which electric motors failed the electric motor lie detector test. Then we'll see which grinder makes the most torque. Finally, we'll see which one offers the best eye protection. At a budget price at only $88, the least expensive brand we'll be testing is made by Win. All the bench grinders we'll be testing are designed for 8-inch wheels. It claims to have a quiet 4.8 amp motor. The Win has 2 LED lights that use AAA batteries. The LED light doesn't offer too much brightness. Onboard coolant tray serves as a quenching pot for work pieces. Installing the tool rest and shields only takes a few minutes. The tool rest and debris shields are adjustable. The Win is made in China. Later on in the video, we'll compare the quality of the tool rest, the spark, and the debris shields. And the Win weighs 29.45 pounds. They claim their motor offers quick startups. The Win claims to offer quick startups, and it takes 8.4 seconds to reach full operating RPM. And the Win is at 3,583 RPM. And the Win doesn't make too much noise at only 65.6 decibels. And it takes 2 minutes and 20 seconds for the wheel to come to a stop. At a price of $90 or just $2 more than the Win is this Performance Tool brand. And a Performance Tool bench grinding wheel is pretty loose. Unfortunately, the packaging just didn't do a very good job of protecting the grinder. The Performance Tool does not include a light. It includes a 36 and a 60 grit wheel. The Performance Tool is made in China. It includes a 3/4 horsepower motor, 3,450 RPM. The build quality and the way the debris shield is mounted on the Performance Tool just isn't nearly as durable as the Win. And the tool holder can be moved in or out as the wheel wears away, but it's just not as well built as the Win. It does come with dual shields, but I'm going to leave one off since it's missing a screw. The Performance Tool is very light at only 23.75 pounds. A bench grinder that takes a long time to get up to speed can really delay progress. And the Win takes 8.4 seconds to reach full operating RPM, but the Performance Tool takes about 2.5 times as long, 19.8 seconds. 3,559 RPM is almost fast as the Win. 83.7 decibels is a lot louder than the Win. And it takes 2 minutes and 23 seconds for the grinding wheel to come to a stop. At a price of $100 is this Bauer brand, which is sold at Harbor Freight. And a Bauer bench grinder is very well padded to avoid damage during transport. 4.8 amp 3/4 horsepower motor, 3,600 no load RPM. They claim that their motor won't bog down. Includes dual spark shields to protect against flying debris. Compared to the Performance Tool, spending the extra $10 on the Bauer does buy a much higher quality tool rest and eye guard made in China. And the Bauer is the heaviest yet at almost 35 pounds. And the Bauer gets up to speed and it's ready to go to work the fastest yet at only 7.8 seconds. 3,577 RPM is about the same as the Win. 74.9 decibels is relatively quiet. The grinding wheels come to a stop the fastest yet in 1 minute and 48 seconds. At a price of $140 is this Hercules brand, which is also sold at Harbor Freight. The Bauer had a 3/4 horse electric motor and the Hercules has a 0.9. Variable speed range from 2,000 to 3,400 RPM. The base reduces vibration and improves.
As far as these grinders go, they're not all very few are adjustable speed.
The work rest of the Hercules look very close.
That generally adds the price quite a bit if you can adjust the speed. Generally, you can't. Most of them, 80% of them, you can't. There's also other ones that are specialized, slow turning ones. They're fairly expensive to get the torque needed at super low speeds. These kind would never be able to do it. Can't really run these super slow. There's no power behind them, so to speak. Some of the better ones are actually designed and straight up called slow turning grinders and sharpeners.
Close to the same as the Bauer. The spark shields and the tool holders also look very close to the same. The Hercules is made in China, and the Hercules is the heaviest yet at 40.5 pounds. The Hercules costs about $40 more than the Bauer, and it also takes 3 seconds longer than the Bauer to get up to speed. The variable speed is from around 2,100 RPM to just over 3,500. 74.3 decibels is very close to the same as the Bauer. And the Hercules needs 1 minute and 22 seconds for the wheel to come to a stop, which is the fastest yet. At a price of $150 is this Skill brand. Includes a 3 amp hour motor, built-in water cooling tray, and LED work light. One of the 2 shields is magnified, and the Skill is made in China. Adjustable V-groove tool rest. The tool rests are adjustable. While the tool rest on the Skill moves in and out, the angle cannot be adjusted like the Bauer and the Hercules. And the Skill is pretty light at 26.25 pounds. And the Skill gets up to full operating speed in right at 10 seconds to move into 3rd place behind the Bauer. 3,570 no load RPM. 73.9 decibels is about the same as the Hercules. 80 seconds to come to a complete stop is the fastest yet. At a price of $229 is this Delta brand. The Delta tools did not come with a light bulb. The built-in light includes an on and off switch that can handle up to a 40-watt light bulb. I use a 12-watt LED light and it's by far the brightest yet, but you can choose a less powerful light bulb. It includes eye shields, removable water tray, and wheel dressing tool. Variable speeds from 2,000 to 3,400 RPM. The Delta has a 5-amp induction motor. The Delta is made in China. And the Delta weighs 40.27 pounds. And the Delta is the fastest at getting ready to go to work yet, very close to 7 seconds to take the lead from the Bauer. The variable speed RPM ranges from 2,100 to just over 3,400. It's a little quieter than the Bauer, 72.5 decibels. The Delta also comes to a stop the fastest yet in only 48 seconds. At a price of $250 is this Shopbox brand. 3/4 horsepower variable speed induction motor. Variable speeds include 2,000 to 3,400 RPM. Includes dual adjustable aluminum work rest. The ice shield and the tool holder look about the same as the Bauer and the Hercules. And the Shopbox weighs 40.61 pounds. And the Shopbox isn't quite as fast as the Delta at getting to work, but it's still pretty fast at 8.1 seconds. And the variable speed ranges from around 2,160 RPM to just over 3,500.
Shopbox shit's always really expensive.
Most of the other brands. The Shopbox does come to a stop faster than the Bauer in a minute and 34 seconds. At a price of $260 is this Raycon brand. The Raycon comes with a 60-grit wheel and a wire wheel. The Raycon
They're right up there with Shopbox. Raycon's super expensive.
2,000 to 3,400 RPM. Cast iron base with rubber feet to reduce vibration. And the Raycon has a pretty bright LED light, but it can be replaced with a standard size bulb if more light is needed. The built-in water tray seems like a pretty nice feature. The Raycon is made in China, and the Raycon weighs 38.27 pounds. And the lightweight water wheel really helped the Raycon get up to speed very fast in only 5.1 seconds, the fastest time yet. The variable speed RPM ranges from just under 2,100 to just over 3,500. And the wire wheel is making things pretty noisy at 76.1 decibels. It also came to a stop the fastest yet in only 44 seconds. At a price of $520.
See the prices of the other ones?
$28 is this Jet brand. 1 horsepower heavy-duty capacitor motor, sealed bearings for maintenance-free grinding. And the Jet has a 5.5 amp, 3,600 RPM motor. On-off toggle switch with safety key prevents accidental startup. The tool rest does adjust in and out, but the angle cannot be changed. However, the tool rest is much heavier built and seems far more durable than the other brands. The Jet does not come with the work light. Single dust chute hose delivers dependable collection. The Jet grinder is made in Taiwan. And the Jet's by far the heaviest yet at almost 63 pounds. And the Jet is up to speed in only 2 seconds flat, which is by far the fastest yet. Very impressive. 3,591 no-load RPM is the most yet. 72.8 decibels is a little less noise than most of the other brands. Once a Jet gets going, it doesn't want to stop working and takes around 90 seconds to come to a stop. It is sometimes a good indicator of build quality, and the performance tool is the lightest at 23.75 pounds. Steel weighs 26.25 and wind 29.45 pounds. And the grinder that gets up to full speed the fastest is a Jet in only 2 seconds. Raycon finished in second in 5.1 seconds, Delta 7 and Bauer 7.87 seconds. I put together this next tester to measure the working torque or how much force it takes to stall the electric motor. I'll apply a slow controlled downward force until the grinding wheel comes to a stop. If you're using some force when pressing a piece of metal up against the grinding wheel, the loss of momentum or the motor coming to a stop really slows down progress. And the wind was barely holding on at 9 pounds of force and began losing momentum and finally stalled at 10 pounds. With a name like Performance Tools, I had big hopes for this bench grinder, which is rated for 3/4 horsepower, just like the Wind. Unfortunately, the Performance Tool really began to struggle at only 3 pounds, and the Performance Tool gave up at 4 pounds or 6 pounds less than the Wind. Definitely not performing like a 3/4 horsepower motor. Just like the Wind, the Bauer was holding its own at 9 pounds, but really began to struggle at 10. And the Bauer began running out of steam and finally stalled at 10 pounds, the same as the Wind. The Bauer is rated for 3/4 horsepower, and the Hercules is rated at 0.9. And the Hercules is able to handle about 1 additional pound of force and finally stalled at 11 pounds. And the Steel cost around $10 more than the Hercules, but the electric motor is only rated for 3 amps. And the Steel is really struggling, but not quite as bad as the Performance Tool. And the Steel ran out of steam at 5 pounds or 1 pound more than the Performance Tool. And the Delta is rated for 3/4 horsepower, just like the Bauer. And the Delta is performing a lot like the Hercules, and 11 pounds is just a little too much. And the Shopbox not only looks like the Hercules, it also performs like it. And the Shopbox held its own at 10 pounds, but 11 pounds was a little too much. So the Hercules, Delta, and Shopbox are tied for the lead at 11 pounds. And the Raycon is also rated for 3/4 horsepower, just like the Bauer, Delta, and Shopbox. And the Raycon performed just as well as the Hercules, Delta, and Shopbox at 11 pounds. The Hercules is rated for 0.9 horsepower, and the Jet is rated for 1 horsepower. So by the numbers, the Jet should run out of steam at well under 20 pounds. And the Jet totally destroyed the competition, finally giving up at a very impressive 60 pounds. So the Jet came in on top at 60 pounds. The Hercules, Delta, Shop Fox, and Rikon finished in a four-way tie for second place at 11. I built an electric motor lie detector tester. All but one electric motor is rated for at least 3/4 horsepower, and the alternator is connected to a fully charged car battery. The car battery is connected to a power inverter, and a fan speed controller is attached to the power inverter, and a light is connected to the fan speed controller. This will allow the grinders to maintain their horsepower rating throughout the entire test. I'll use a power drill to help the grinders get up to speed since bench grinders don't have too much starting torque. The test will last right at 15 minutes. And the wind is off to a good start and is running at a little over 570 watts or very close to 4.8 amps. 746 watts is very close to 1 horsepower, so the wind is operating very close to its 3/4 horsepower capacity. It's been right at 10 minutes and the wind is very close to 112 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's been right at 15 minutes and the wind is now at 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's go and test the maximum watts for the wind. When it comes to a short burst of torque, the wind held its own until 1100 watts. Just like the wind, the performance tool is rated for 3/4 horsepower. And the wind really struggled on the max torque test, and it really struggled in this test too. Unfortunately, the performance tool just doesn't make enough torque to pass the electric tool lie detector test. The Bauer is off to a great start, and the Bauer is handling the 3/4 horsepower load just fine. At 10 minutes, the Bauer is at 120 degrees. At 15 minutes, it's the same temperature as the wind at 130 degrees. And the Bauer ran out of steam at 1,150 watts, or about 50 watts more than the wind. And the Hercules got off to a very easy start. The Hercules is rated for 0.9 horsepower and is handling the load just fine. At 10 minutes, the Hercules is at around 103 degrees. It's been run at 15 minutes, and the Hercules is at 125 degrees or 5 degrees cooler than the Bauer. And the Hercules performed even better than the Bauer, making it to 1,250 watts before giving up. So the Hercules definitely passed the test. And the Skill has a 3 amp hour motor, which is very close to a half horsepower rating. Even with the lower rating, the Skill successfully started the test. Since the Skill is rated for half horsepower, I'll go ahead and test the Skill in a range between 340 and 360 watts. After 15 minutes, the Skill is only at 110 degrees. And the Skill made it to around 700 watts before running. The Skill has a 3 amp hour rating, and it definitely passed the test.
For the longest time, Skill was like Kmart, fucking value home center stuff. You wouldn't be caught dead using Skill shit. They got recently, maybe 8 years ago, bought by Bosch Tool Group, and they have been actually pumping. Skill is actually one of the top brands currently. Back in the day, you'd be caught dead using Skill shit.
Delta is handling the 3/4 horsepower load very well, and the motor temperature is close to 100 degrees at 10 minutes. And at 15 minutes, the Delta is the coolest yet at 117 degrees on the hottest part of the motor. And the Delta seems to be making the same amount of power as the Hercules at around 1,250 watts. And the Shop Fox is off to a great start on the electric motor lie detector test. At 10 minutes, the Shop Fox is only at 92 degrees. So the Shop Fox is running the coolest yet. At 15 minutes, it's the coolest yet at only 106 degrees or 11 degrees cooler than the Delta. It's also 24 degrees cooler than the Hercules. And the Shop Fox held on the longest and finally gave up at 1,325 watts.
Make good stuff.
And the Rikon is off to a great start just like the Shop Fox. At 10 minutes into the test, the Rikon is at 105 degrees Fahrenheit or very close to the same as the Shop Fox. At 15 minutes, the Rikon is about the same as the Delta at 116 degrees. And the Rikon performed about the same as the Hercules and Delta at 1,250 watts before it stalled. And the Jet doesn't need any help from the drill to get started. And the grinder is rated for 1 horsepower and is making just about 1 horsepower. At 10 minutes into the test, the Jet is only at 95 degrees with the 1 horsepower load. At 15 minutes into the test, it's running the coolest yet at 106 degrees. So even with the bigger load, the Jet is running the coolest yet. And the grinder is making a ton of torque and the watt meter is maxed out. So around 1,800 watts and the Jet is finished. So all the bench grinders passed this test except for the Performance Tool brand. The Shop Fox and the Jet ran the coolest at 106 degrees. However, the Jet ran at 1 horsepower compared to 3/4 horsepower for the Shop Fox. The Rikon and the Delta also performed very well at 116 and 117 degrees respectively. The bench grinder that delivers the most power is the Jet at around 1,800 watts. The Shop Fox finished in second at around 1,325. Hercules, Delta, and Rikon 1,250 watts. Most protective eyewear is made of polycarbonate, which is designed to prevent shattering. So it seems appropriate that ice shields on bench grinders would be able to withstand an impact. All the ice shields are impacted with a steel ball. In most of the brands ace this test, however, the Performance Tool ice shield broke, as did the Jet. A quick subjective comparison on the build quality of each of the grinders go from the poorest quality to the best. In my opinion, the Performance Tool makes the poorest quality tool rest and ice shield setup. While the tool rest is held in position by two bolts, the tool rest is very flimsy and the angle is fixed. Unfortunately, the ice shield is only held in by one bolt and is very prone to coming loose. Also, the ice shield is very fragile. The Wind seems to have a better build quality than the Performance Tool. However, the tool rest is fastened to the grinder by a single 3/16" screw and a hand knob. There's also a metal dowel to hold it in position, but this is a very light-duty setup. The Skill definitely seems better than the Wind. It also uses a very light-duty setup with a single hand knob fastening the tool rest to the grinder. However, the ice shield setup seems better than the Performance Tool, but not quite as good as some of the other brands. The Delta's build quality seems about the same as the Skill's. It also has a very light-duty setup with a single hand knob fastening the tool rest to the grinder. However, the tool rest angle is adjustable and the Skill's is not. If you're looking for a build quality that's even better than the Delta and the Skill, there are several options. The ice shields and the tool rests look very close to the same for the Bauer, Hercules, ShopFox, and Rikon. For each of those brands, the tool rests are fastened with two bolts and a hand knob is used to adjust the angle. These four brands use the best setup so far. The Jet makes by far the most durable setup in the lineup. The tool rest is more durable than the front bumper on a 1965 Chevy Impala. It's bolted onto a cast iron guard by 3/8" bolts. The metal frame holding the ice shield in place is very well built, but the ice shield might crack if it gets hit. Making a replacement ice shield out of polycarbonate is a very quick and easy task. Let's test the quality of the grinding wheels next using 4" screws. I'll press the screw into the wheel and then we'll measure the wear or the carve out after 2 screws. And the Wind made very easy work of grinding the 2 screws without the motor bogging down. Grinding wheel friability is the ability of the grinding wheel grains to break down and expose sharp edges. This helps increase the material removal rate. The Wind wheel is still in very good condition. The groove on the grinding wheel of the Wind is 0.005 inches, so the Wind is not very friable. The Performance Tool brand needed quite a bit longer to finish the job, and the motor stalled a couple of times under light pressure. And the screw cut a very deep groove into the wheel. 0.09 inches is pretty deep, and the Performance Tool wheel seems far too friable. And the Bauer is doing a much better job than the previous 2 brands in protecting me from filings and abrasive wheel dust. 0.061 inches is pretty deep, but much better than the Performance Tool. Just like the Bauer, the Hercules is doing a great job of protecting me from the metal filings. And the Hercules abrasive wheel held up much better than the Bauer's at 0.0045 inches, which is the least amount of wear yet. Even though the Skill is only rated for 3 amps, no issues with the motor stalling like the Performance Tool. 0.005 inches is very close to the same as the Hercules. The light-duty tool rest came loose on the Delta during use. This is definitely a design that could use improvement. The groove is 0.042 inches deep. The ShopFox tool rest is very well secured and stayed in place during the entire test. And the ShopFox performed about the same as the Delta at 0.042 inches. Just like the ShopFox, the Rikon tool rest stayed in place during the test. 0.024 inches is less wear than the Delta and the ShopFox. And the Jet tool rest is very heavy duty and stays very still during use. And the groove is 0.018 inches in depth. When it comes to wheel wear, wheels that wear away faster typically cut faster. So some wear is a good feature to achieve high productivity, but too much wear can be an indication of a poor quality abrasive wheel. Leaving out the subjective categories, the Jet is by far the best performing bench grinder, finishing in first place in every test, but it is very large and expensive. ShopFox did well with an average finish of 1.7 and Rikon 2.3. If we include the subjective assessment on build quality, the Jet still came out on top. At half the price of the Jet, the ShopFox did well with an average finish of 1.8, Rikon 2.3, and Delta and Hercules 2.8. The nice thing about saying no to every sponsorship and every free item is that you can always get to the bottom of the truth really quickly when you don't have sponsors to please. All the videos in this channel, including this one, are viewer suggested. So if you have a video idea, I hope you'll take time to leave a comment. Thanks so much for watching. Please take care, and I look forward to next time.
Try Old Spice Total Body with 24/7 freshness from pits to toes.
Our internet bill went up? Looks like you need Verizon Home Internet. No surprise price hikes or hidden fees, because nobody likes surprises. Who are you?
I live here.
Oh, please.
Switch to Fios Home Internet. Plans start at $25 a month and now come with a 5-year price guarantee. Only on Verizon.
vise is one of those must-have tools. So the question is that $60 vise just as good as the one that cost over $500? Well, let's find out. In the first test, we'll see which vise has the best anvil. Then we'll see which vise can handle the hardest hammer blow. Then we'll
doing some maintenance and repair work to some of the auction finds from a couple weeks ago. My parts have come in. Today I'm going to put new tires on the bandsaw and replace the handle.
So missing some stuff. Missing a
So,
bearing set.
never pressed the tires on these before. Very easy to take off. Any bandsaw you buy from an auction, whether it's handheld or, a jet 14-inch, whatever, the tires are always they're either missing entirely or they're cracked. So the thing to do is to when you're at the auction, look up and make sure you can get tires for any bandsaws you might be purchasing. Now, a lot of people make aftermarket ones, so there's really I've never come across one I couldn't get tires for, but some of them are a little pricier than others. So then when I get the tool home, I check all the bearings, general condition, and then order the parts I need. So these tires were $12 for a pair of them, and the handle was like $6. So I bought a couple saw blades. Here's the tire. It's cogged on these Milwaukees and a lot of portable bandsaws. A lot of these parts on this Milwaukee are the exact same on the Harbor Freight one. So what you do is take a T30 Torx, German frame here. There's 3 bolts here. You can put these on without removing this, but it can be frustrating sometimes, so just take them off. Really quick to do. Plus, it gives you a chance to look at the stuff underneath them. If you're gonna buy power tools from auctions, get used to. You'll quickly learn the in and outs on taking them all apart. There's the covers. Also, thing to note on these saws, these ones on the dry side are longer than on the driven side, or the idler side. Now, there's a snap ring. Out there. This is launching across the shop. By the way, if there's one tool you shouldn't cheap out on, it's a good set of snapping pliers. Go ahead and pay the $15 or $20 for a big, good set, rather than that pack of 5 or 10 you get for free. Plastic washer. Come on. Here we go. That's all it is. Just pull off. Okay. This is a sleeve. You'll tie her off. As you can see, this one's all. You can see that it's all cracked and stuff. Sometimes people, when these get bad, they'll take them off and they'll glue them down. I don't do that. And you see it here. Bring it up to you. The drive on it. There's a chain in there. It goes from the sprocket. All of these parts are valuable for these Milwaukees and for most brands. I go through different parts. I think for most of my parts, I get good prices and I'm happy with them. Okay, so this inside part indexes on the inside of here, so you see that moves a little bit. That if I don't go on here. Now what you do is you gotta. It's hard to describe the tension you need to keep. This is 2, as you can see. So each one has to fit into its pocket.
Good.
To get started. Come on, get started. And you kind of watch how it's fitting in. See how far you need to pull it. Or give it a little bit of slack. So they all feed in. You can't really just stretch it all over the whole thing. If it's off by 1 tooth, you have to take it off and start over. Again, pull it, push it. Watch how those teeth, it's really hard to show that. Make sure each tooth snaps into its little hole. Just keep going around. The good thing is, as it's retained by those holes, it doesn't really want to slip off. And there you go. Now we'll reassemble it. Put on our plastic washer. Now, there, you gotta make sure it falls down in there. You always run a bolt through. Make sure it's actually catching that gear down there. This part can be kind of finicky. Yeah, look down in there. I can see them, huh? Throw a snap ring on for our plastic bushing. coating on that. Now I'm going to put the center cap on. And I don't typically use Loctite on stuff like this. If you can put a little dab of glue on there if you wanted to, that would be fine. But the tires are expendable items. They're going to wear. You're going to get chips on them. They're going to drag chips across them. Depending on the cutting oil you use, they'll get saturated. You don't want to really reef down on these guys. I'm using a 1/4 inch ratchet. A bit of it. And then we put on our blade. I forget which way this thing turns, so I'm going to plug it in for a second. Well, the arrows are on it, so I don't really need to do that. Duh. But the arrows are not on there. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of wore. That's the way it turns. Your blade here. Going this way. The rollers. There's a release handle I'll show you on the other side. I like to get started on the non-turning side first. In there. It's not a terrible idea to wear gloves when you rest your blades as well. And tucked in. Down. Push the thing forward. No latches. There we go. Now the other thing we're going to do, if you recall, the handle was broken. So it's going to replace it. Again, just something to factor in when you're purchasing tools at an auction. You're going to usually count on replacing the bearings and stuff like that in them. I believe that goes on like that. I prefer it that way. And I'm going to put just a drop of blue Loctite on the bolt. It's also a little runny because it's getting old. Put that in there. And snugger down. Don't kill it because it's a plastic handle. There. Our auction find bandsaw is all good to go. I'll clear the rest of the auction tape off of it. Bring it down here. Yeah, it's one thing to think about when you're at an auction. Pay a little bit more for the Milwaukee stuff and all that, but you can usually get parts for them. There's not a single part for this, except for this motor casting that I can't get. I ordered a bunch of parts for the Jet 14-inch bandsaw. My oldest boy starting to get interested in using stuff in the shop, so there's some safety things I've been neglecting on it, so I'm going to get those taken care of before I let him start using it. Yeah, that's how to replace the tires and handle on the Milwaukee handheld bandsaw. This is Adam, welcome to Machine Shop. Comment, like, and subscribe.
responsibility. Hey everyone, welcome to Spindle's Workshop. My name's Louie. I recently bought these new tires for my Craftsman 12-inch bandsaw. We're going to go ahead and change them together. If you have any interest in seeing how I do it, stick around. Alright, first thing we're going to do is loosen these clips so we can take the front plate off. So what you're going to want to do now is remove the blade. Remove this little screw here in the front. Loosen the blade. And then take this plate off. The bandsaw is rocking because I spun it so you have a better view at it. It's not in its proper position. That's why it's not sitting flat. So you take the screw out, I loosened it, I took this plate off. Now you just slide the blade out in the little slot here. Put it aside.
Hey, just cashed a check, and I'm about to blow it all on chocolate. Yo, chocolate. Sweet tooth, baby, make.
If you've noticed, I've been doing a lot of bandsaw videos lately on my Reels, on my Instagram, on my Facebook Reels, and on my YouTube Shorts, and I've been getting a lot of questions. I'm making this video to show you 5 to 7 things that people get wrong about the bandsaw when they're beginning their bandsaw journey. I've been on the bandsaw since I'm about 6 or 7 years old. And I'm 56 now, so that's about 50 years I've been using the bandsaw. And when I was in high school, I cut out letters at a sign shop for many years, and I did that quite a bit. I learned a few things along the way, and I'm going to show you some of those mistakes that people make in the beginning and how to correct those mistakes. So the biggest mistake that most people make, I get calls from people all the time and they're saying, my saw is drifting, it's not cutting well, it's burning, it's smoking. And then I'll ask them a simple question, when did you change the blade last? And they'll say, I don't know, I bought the saw used, the blade was on it. It sounds ridiculous, but I've gotten that answer more than you would imagine. When you keep old blades, they're simply just in case you need to cut metal or something else. But when the blades get dull, throw them away. When you buy a used saw, first thing you do is get rid of the blade. Don't ever use a stamped blade. When I was a kid, my dad used to buy Sears stamped blades. They were horrible. They would go dull immediately and then immediately start drifting. The only thing they would be good for cutting is maybe foam rubber or foam insulation. But for cutting wood, they were horrible. When I was about 17, 18 years old, we began to buy blades from Suffolk Machinery, which is now Timberwolf blades. I have no endorsed agreement with them at all, but I've just been buying their blades since about 35 years now. And so Timberwolf blades are the best blades that I personally like to use. I get them in 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch, which is what's on this saw right now. This is an 1/8 inch, 14 tooth per inch, and I get a 1/4 inch, 14 tooth per inch, and sometimes I get a 3/8 blade, 14 tooth per inch. For cutting the material that I like to cut, it's the best. We cut MDF, sometimes brass and aluminum. And not only is it a good cut, believe it or not, for cutting your hands, which you don't want to do, but it is a safer blade to get injured on. If you're using a 14 tooth per inch for resaw, that is a dangerous blade. That blade will pull you in, it'll suck your hand in. General purpose cutting, I would get a 14 tooth per inch. One common mistake I see most often is people cutting round objects on a bandsaw, whether it's a round peg or a hockey puck or baseball or a golf ball. I see people sticking them into the bandsaw blades and then they go banana because this is a conveyor belt. The minute you stick this against it, it just goes crazy. It spins in every direction. You need to fixture this. You need to grab it with a clamp. You need to hot glue it or screw it to something. Another dangerous thing to try and stick into a saw is like a natural shape, like a tree branch. Everything needs to be fixtured down, especially if you're not confident and if you don't have the experience and you don't know what's going to happen. Fixture it down to the table. You don't want it to spin. Put it in a cradle. Grab it with a screw clamp. Just anticipate that will get sucked out of your hands. It is scary, and you let the piece go flying. Always fixture something round, especially a ball or a rod or a pipe or something like that. Let's see what happens when I stick this in here. That's what happens, and if you're not ready for it, it's very scary. Make sure your clamp is flat against the table so it's not going to rock. And that's how you cut a round object on the bandsaw. You can also hold the baseball with one of these. I know because I've done it. So this is another common mistake I see people do. They want to cut the corners off of something square. And they might approach it like that. I call this high siding, like on a motorcycle. You don't want a high side. So the high side here is going to pull that down onto the table. The safer choice would be to flip it over and go like that because you have all this leverage to keep that from pulling this way. When you're here, it's just physics. It wants to pull down against the table. You'll bend the blade, you'll break your piece of wood, and you'll poop in your pants. So whenever you're going to cut the corner off of something, if you're going to sculpt like I do on the bandsaw, be careful you don't high side. Always make sure that the bottom of your cut, you either have the leverage of the material or you have the support of something underneath. And I'll show you a couple of examples of that. If you did want to make a high side cut like this, I'll show you a safe way to do it. You could also adjust the table, but if you don't want to adjust the table, you need to make a temporary simple cut. You could raise up your blade support, and I'll show you with a piece of scrap what I would do. And that's a way to support a high side cut. Or you could just cut it that way, but if you can't because the object or the shape of the wood, then you do something like that.
Build with Ferguson can help you keep your home improvement projects organized from start to finish.
Now this is the insert that removes so that you can change the blade. These are very important. Most bandsaw manufacturers, to them, this is an afterthought. They give you a plastic insert. When I see a saw in somebody else's shop that has a plastic insert, I immediately put a piece of material over it, cut into the blade as my new table support. Any little piece of debris that comes off of your cut is going to get stuck in those little holes. A bandsaw manufacturing company makes the bandsaw dangerous with the bad insert. This is an insert I made out of brass. It's pretty beat up. It's probably about 15 years old. But sometimes when I need a perfect zero clearance, I will just take a piece of material in there, and then I have a zero. I can make little tiny small cuts and not have to worry about it getting stuck in the insert plate. So I just grabbed a piece of scrap that's been sitting here, but you can get a nice piece of acrylic, saw it into, put some double-sided tape, and then you have a zero clearance plate. Occasionally you go to a high school shop and the plate is totally missing because nobody cares. Nobody takes care of the tools. This is too dangerous. You shouldn't go near this because your blade can pull the piece of material into it, especially if it's something small. If this is your circumstance and you're in a public shop or a shared shop, put a piece of material over this, just a full piece of clean cut plywood. And then you're good to go. And if you need to change the blade, you take the plywood off, you change the blade, you put the zero cut plate back in. So people always want to know how I set my guide blocks. There's all types of this guide block, that guide block, there's all types of math. This is the guide block that's been on this saw since I was a little kid. I got this particular saw, this exact machine, not this model, this exact machine, I've had since I was about 7 years old, 6 years old. My dad bought it from the family of a fireman who passed away when he was a fireman when I was a little kid. And this bandsaw has been the one bandsaw I've used nearly at least once a week for the last 49 years. And the bearing is the same, the guide blocks are the same, I haven't changed them. You just make sure that the teeth are sticking out past the guide block and that the bearing is spinning on the bottom and the top. The bottom guide blocks are the same. If we looked at them, the teeth would be sticking out just past the guide blocks and the bearing just pushes right on the back of the blade. And I always make sure that the crown at the top, the blade is right either in the middle or just past the crown. When you back out, when you're making a cut and you're backing out and the blade wants to follow your cut and come off of the wheels, that's because your crown is the blade, the wheel's not tilted back enough, keeping that blade back there, or your guide blocks are pushing the blade too far forward. And any little instigation will pull the blade off. It shouldn't be. It should always be leaning back a little bit against the guide blocks. It's always worked for me. I've never had to buy new guide blocks or change them. When it gets worn out right here, I just pull them out and flip them over or put them on the grinder and flatten them out. So it's kissing the flat back part of the blade. The teeth stick out just in front of it. It's not complicated. And the reason I like this particular model, this is a 1960s, 1940s Delta Rockwell, Delta Milwaukee 14-inch. You can adjust all the guides by hand. You just need Allen key to push the guide blocks in and out, which isn't an adjustment you make a lot. All these are done by hand. All the guide blocks at the bottom are all done by hand. You don't need to break out an Allen key or anything. That's the reason why I like this saw. All new modern saws have Allen keys everywhere. Drives me bananas, which is keeping me from buying a brand new saw because they all have Allen keys to adjust